Far out. What a shit show. Absolute shit show. It's been about 9 months since we had our solar system installed, and it's only just started working properly. Here's our nightmare solar story. Working out how much solar you need is a big deal. We spent weeks researching a bunch of new words such as volts, watts and bloody amps, and ended up with a pretty solid picture of the setup we wanted. We'd get a top quality system so that we didn't have to worry about problems or lack of power. Little did we know. Put simply, to work out your power needs, you need to calculate an average use of everything you own that requires electricity, and then how much input you'll need to cover those products. We arrived at a 350 watt panel system up on the front runner racks, a 200 amp hour lithium battery inside, alongside a 2000 watt inverter to power our CMS 24 volt system.
CMS is a DIY way to install 240 volt basically in your van, so super exciting. All they have to do now is come do our inverter wiring and then the final check off. So basically we start here. This is the inlet that will go on the outside of the van. Here we have our breaker. This will be in our battery area, so that if any surges come from the mains power, then it will trip there, so it doesn't affect the rest of our battery system. One cord comes in, so it's just a push in there, and then the next cord goes in that way, and that cord will then go off to your next power point. And same thing, so this one came in, then we've got another extension cord going out off to our last power point, which will be in the garage.
The wiring all looks super neat, Craig. Yeah. Do most people do this?
Yeah, some form or another. There are other ways. It's just Spiroflex.
Yeah.
So we're testing the two-way light switch. So as we walk in the van at night time, we can switch the light on.
Ooh.
And then when we're comfy in bed and about to go to sleep and don't want to move, we can turn the light off.
Oh, Craigo, you've outdone yourself.
Have I really? It's great.
Anything particularly difficult about our van?
No, not at all. It was an open canvas.
We continued to build around our system, cladding away and locking each wire behind an impenetrable wall, presuming it was working without a fault. And on our first attempt at using the system, it failed.
Yeah, so, basically we went to use it and it's only in about 70%, but the voltage has dropped so much and all our appliances have just switched off. I did some research and it's saying that it shouldn't be dropping that much. It's at 11.9. Yeah.
We spent hours researching the system and what could be wrong with it because, according to the installer company, nothing was. We insisted that either the products were terrible or the install was faulty, and even though they tried to come and fix it numerous times, they refused to take total responsibility for their errors. Finally, though, we had a breakthrough when a Victron expert in an online forum sent us back a scathing assessment of the current wiring setup. This is a huge mistake. You should shut down the system ASAP to stop discharging the battery even more. Currently, the battery is not protected against deep discharging. The quality of the work is very poor and poses a huge fire risk. Please get a professional to sort this out properly for you.
The problem was that the voltage was getting way too low for the state of charge. So at 70%, the voltage was dropping to about 11.9, which means that everything turns off because you need at least 12 volts.
So we finally had concrete evidence that the system was indeed faulty and even a danger to our lives and our entire van the way it was currently wired. Unfortunately though, after handing our van back to the inexperienced, lazy installers for another week. We received it back, still with many, many problems. All right. Alternator should kick in.
No, just tripped.
It's tripped.
Tripped.
Oh my God. I'm so over this. Back on.
Yeah.
Alrighty, it's been a fun time down in South Oz, but we are back in the van. Not bad, not bad. Looking pretty fresh. Is that off?
No. Why is that off? Is that... Oh my God, it must have tripped. Kyle's just taking all the gross, mouldy food away. So annoying.
Now those problems were largely due to the use of these dodgy breakers. These are about $30 from the local average Joe wiring store and didn't match the quality or ampage of the system which we had installed. Now we'd been told by third parties that you got to get these out because they cause a lot of issues. And we passed that on to no avail. Surprise, surprise. And if that wasn't enough, the alternator wasn't charging the battery whilst we drove either, which was something we had factored into our energy calculations. Now this, we later found out, was because the fools had ordered the wrong product and not told us about the mistake. They had installed a DC to DC converter instead of a DC to DC charger, which is what we ordered. And it's a big difference. After 8 months of dealing with the dodgiest, the most irresponsible, pathetic business I've ever come across, we finally were able to find a third-party actual expert to fix the entire system.
So good to have someone that knows what they're doing.
And
Thank you so much.
That is like a gigantor cable and then put into some tiny weird thing. Yep, see on there, terminals on there,
Just pull it
cables
out.
off.
Yeah, right.
So,
Surprise?
Oh, not
and
really.
you can put those two next to each other. That's what's going in, that's what's coming
That's
out.
the new
Yeah,
one.
okay.
And that's the shitty old one.
Yeah.
That's a DC to DC converter. And the difference is...
So this is your battery charger, which is an actual charger, whereas the other one's a converter. So they look the same, but they're different products.
Is it helping at all, the one that's currently in there?
No.
So on the invoice it says DC to DC charger.
I suppose that's what they meant to put in there.
Yeah. Got the wrong part.
I mean, at this point, I guess it is somewhat of a relief to just hear our concerns be validated, and things are starting to make a little bit more sense when you work with someone who actually knows what they're doing. Far out. What a shit show. Absolute shit show. It's been 9 months and we can finally make a coffee without the coffee machine tripping. We can drive and be rest assured that the battery is actually charging whilst we're driving. And we know that the right products are in the right place and they're wired correctly and they're not just going to fall out if bumped. What do you think the moral of the story is?
The moral of the story, it's just as important to look at the installation quality as well as the product quality.
Yes. The reason we chose Victron and this rather expensive setup is because we didn't want problems. And I think if we had vetted the installers and asked them if they'd actually had experience with vans before, perhaps we would have used someone else. These mistakes have cost us thousands of dollars, not only monetarily but also in time. I think if you are going to do this, do your research, ask a few more questions, and make sure that the quality of the install matches the quality of the product.
And you go to a specialist.
An actual specialist.